Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good evening. Wonderful to see you. So, many of you don't know this about my profession, but in case you didn't know, my line of work attracts a lot of weird people. It's just something that kind of comes with the job. Weird people, saying weird things, and sometimes doing weird things. Now, I'm kind of weird myself. You probably know that. So I have a higher tolerance for the weirdness than other rabbis. And allow me to say this. If you are a member of the congregation, i.e., you pay money to have access to me or to the synagogue, I'll tolerate a lot of your weirdness. Any member of the shul can book a private appointment with me, many of them do, and they can come in my office and say basically anything they want. As long as they don't tell me that they're going to go murder someone, I'll just sit there and listen to it and I'll nod, no matter how weird it gets. And friends, sometimes it gets pretty darn weird. It's the way it is. But what I have recently found out that I don't have any patience for is the unsolicited weirdness from people that are not members of the shul, who have no intention of being members of the shul, but for some reason think I'm just really interested in their insane ideas or opinions about nonsense. And probably since January, I don't know what's up with 2025, but I have received a wave of emails from what I call classic anti-Semitic weirdos. The classic ones. Not the new ones, these are classic ones. And they say all sorts of classic anti-Semitic things. But to their credit, I have to give them credit, they do a very convenient thing, which I'm fond of, and they label the subject of their email something really anti-Semitic. Like the one I got last week. It was entitled, this is great. The Jews are vermin scum. That was the email subject line. That's just swell. That's classic anti-Semite, right? Now, what's nice about an email like that is I can just delete it without even having to open it. It's like these classic anti-Semites are really going out of their way to be polite. It's like they don't want to waste my valuable time. So they very conveniently name their emails just horrible things. Absolutely grotesque. The one from 2 months ago I got, which read, this is horrible to say, I don't know what else to do but laugh. The subject line was, quote, "The Jews are Nazi pigs." Now, if I'm being honest, when I read the title of that email, it actually made me chuckle. Nazi pigs? Nazi pigs. What the heck is a Nazi pig? I thought about this all afternoon. I was envisioning, when I think Nazi pig, I think like Porky Pig, but like with like a Hitler mustache, like really evil Porky Pig. Anyway, when I see that crap, it just gets deleted immediately, and I move on with my Nazi pig day. I've got lots of Nazi pig things to do, obviously. But then this week, I got an email, and this is from a new type of anti-Semite. And she wasn't polite enough to make her subject line just deplorable. It actually sounded rather lovely. So I made the mistake of opening it. It read, quote, "A word for today." Okay, a word for today. Click, "Dear Rabbi Hodson, I am a prayer warrior who has been called by God to pray over churches and synagogues here in San Antonio." Well, friends, already I knew we were in trouble. They teach you in rabbinical school, they tell you that anyone who tells you they've been called by God, they are a lunatic. And that's usually my experience. Also, God is calling this woman? Is he ringing her cell phone? I'm a little disappointed because I work for God, and he's never called me. I haven't even gotten a lousy text message. Maybe I need to be a prayer warrior instead of a rabbi. But anyway, her email goes on, quote, "I have a love for the Jewish people and Israel, as this is the group of people from the beginning of time. that God has chosen to reveal his identity. As a Christian, I am very much aware that I have been grafted into the branch. And then she quotes a New Testament source. I'm not going to read that here. And then it gets really good or really weird. Quote, I truly feel God is shaking Christian churches and synagogues. He is returning all of us to his law. Far too long we have watered down and compromised his word of the law, which he gave us to guide us in order to live successful lives. In praying for your synagogue this morning, I feel the Lord gave my prayer group this scripture. And this is where it gets really, really weird. Because I don't know if she knew the context of the verses that she gave me, but I went to rabbinical school and studied this, and I think, I'm not exaggerating, these might be the weirdest verses of the Jewish Bible. They come from the book of Jeremiah, and I am not making this up. Please do your research after. If you know the Hebrew as I do, you would never send this to anyone because you would just have to be a weirdo to do so. It's from Jeremiah 13, and God is attempting to warn the Jewish people about the upcoming Babylonian exile. So God literally commands, I am not making this up, literally commands Jeremiah to take off his underwear. It's going to be okay. Hang with me. God literally commands Jeremiah to take off his underwear and hide it in the crevice of a rock. And then he's supposed to wait a while for the underwear to rot, and afterwards he's supposed to put it back on as a warning to the Jewish people that they are about to be exiled to Babylon. Now, if I'm being completely honest, that prophecy has always weirded me out a little bit. I never really understood the connection to the underwear and the Babylonian exile. I'm sorry, God. It's a message that's always seemed a bit confusing, so naturally I had to wonder, this is the verse you send me, lady? The rotten underwear verse? Now keep in mind, if you've been listening to this story, she said God called her and told her to tell me this. Ring, ring. Yes. Hello, this is God. Listen, I really need you to email Jonathan the Jeremiah rotten underwear verse. I need you to get right on that. Okay. Who does that? Her email keeps going. My word for you today would be to make sure that you know the God of Israel like I do, and know his character, and know that his law is holy and forever, and then make sure you are teaching this to the members of your congregation. I gotta say, I'm doing exactly what she wants. Rabbis and pastors have a high calling to represent the God of heaven, and God is calling us all higher to turn our backs from sin and follow him. Okay, well, okay. You're a crazy, rotten underwear psychopath, lady. I don't know what to say. Now, this Shabbat is a very interesting Shabbat because it's one of the several special Shabbatot that we get in preparation for Pesach, in preparation for Passover. Last week was Shabbat Shekalim, and this week we get Shabbat Zachor, which means to remember. We'll actually use two different scrolls tomorrow, two different Torah scrolls, and the Maftir reading is from the book of Deuteronomy, and we'll hear about the cowardly attack that Amalek, the king of the enemy of the Jewish people, will hear about how he attacked the weak and weary Israelites as they fled from Egypt and traveled through the wilderness. And later in the Haftorah, Saul will be ordered to kill all of the Amalekites, but he spares their king, and God gets upset. Now, the two of the many, many mitzvot that we have as Jews are as follows. A, to remember what Amalek did to our ancestors. Okay, that's in the Torah. Hence that word Zachor, to remember, Shabbat Zachor. And B, we are supposed to blot out Amalek's descendants. Now, the rabbis suggest that in each generation of Jews, there is a new Amalek that seeks to harm the Jewish people. Obviously, Jews in the 20th century who lived through the Holocaust would say that Hitler was their Amalek, all right? That makes sense. And we might say in our current generation that Amalek is like Hamas, right? Something like that. But friends, I would caution us to look closer and to realize that Amalek takes on many guises and takes on many different appearances. And sometimes Amalek even comes across as someone who pretends to have your best interests at heart. Like someone who emails you and promises to pray for you. In all seriousness, Crazy Rotten Underwear Lady's email really upset me. It came across as very condescending. I am a prayer warrior. God has called me. You need to know God's law like I do and return to it. She knows God's law, and I need to return to it? Excuse me, I am the one that keeps kosher. I am the one that doesn't wear garments with mixed fabrics. I am the one who doesn't work on Shabbat, except for here where I work a heck of a lot. I am the one who fasts on Yom Kippur. Does she? I doubt it. But you see, that's how oftentimes Amalek works. They put on a very friendly front, but their intention in reality is not friendly at all. Now, you might disagree with me, but I think when a non-Jew engages with a Jew from the perspective that they are the true arbiter of our tradition, and that they know our Torah and our God and our faith better than we do, I think that is an actual form of anti-Semitism. Whether they will admit it or not, that is the new face of Amalek. It's terrifying. Now, according to the Torah, I'm supposed to wipe out the descendants of Amalek. The rabbis interpret this as meaning that I should blot out his name. Well, I have no intention of harming anyone, especially a weird underwear lady. And I also like to avoid confrontation, but I've got to say this lunatic really triggered me. And since October 7th, I have had a harder time just laying down and taking anti-Semitic rhetoric from random lunatics. I used to do it a lot better, not so great now. Especially if you are not kind enough to write a trigger warning in your subject line, and I'm duped into reading your bizarre, random, weird lunatic rant. So even though my wife told me not to, I wrote back. I wrote back the following to the crazy underwear woman. I said, "Dear so-and-so, this is an extremely condescending message. Ordinarily, I would not respond to such nonsense, but I feel that you should know that this letter only angered and upset me. To email a rabbi with source text from the New Testament and an out-of-context quote about Jeremiah's underwear is offensive. Furthermore, to think that somehow you are the arbiter of God's will and therefore an expert on what God wants from me and my congregation is absurd. Do not email me again." And you know what, friends? She hasn't. Are we clapping? Now, in conclusion, I want to be very, very clear. Please hear this. There are many, many wonderful non-Jews. You know them, I know them. There are many, many wonderful Christians. These people, I think, are our allies, our friends, and our neighbors, and we are blessed to have them. These are the people who I hope, has v'shalom, if something were to happen and a new Amalek decided to rise up against us, these are the people that would come to our defense. We're very blessed to have them. But friends, we need to be weary of Amalek, and we need to be skeptical of the villains that know things that we don't. Because at the end of the day, please know this, and I'll conclude with this. Knowledge is like underwear. It's useful to have, but not necessary to show off. Shabbat Shalom.